Hiya, welcome back to Green Hill Gaming, where I share my passion of video games with the whole wide world. This live stream is pretty much a follow-up to my previous live stream discussion where I was giving the hard, stinging truth about the Resident Evil series. So in this follow-up live stream, I'm going to be discussing why Resident Evil Remake, this game right here, should have been the blueprint of modern Resident Evil. So sit back, relax, but as always, and more importantly, enjoy the live stream. Now, as always, I'm just going to get things started out with the live stream. I'm going to share my live stream onto Facebook, just so more people can have the opportunity to watch the live stream. I don't want to come across as one of those people who are like, "Hi, bro, like and sub," and all of that jazz. No, it's just giving people the opportunity to watch my live stream, that's all. Because I kind of find that mentality a bit on the cringy side, like begging people to watch your live stream, even though I literally just text somebody telling them I'm gone live. Shut up. Okay, I think my live stream is up to date now. So this game right here, if you don't know, is Resident Evil Remake. It was originally released on the Nintendo GameCube in the early 2000s. And this game should have been the blueprint for all modern Resident Evil games. But I'll just let Chris Redfield let the opening cinematic play out, and then I'll get stuck into the discussion while I am playing the game. So there'll be gameplay while I'm talking. So some people prefer gameplay, so try to give people a bit of a 50-50 experience, discussion and gameplay.
Alpha Team is flying around the forest zone, situated in northwest Raccoon City, where we are searching for the helicopter of our compatriots, Bravo Team, who disappeared during the middle of their mission.
Subtitles for Saber Attack.
Bizarre murder cases have recently occurred in Raccoon City. There are outlandish reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten. The Bravo Team was sent in to investigate, but we lost contact.
Look, Chris!
Bravo Team's helicopter was a derelict. Save for the remaining body of Kevin.
So this game is a remake of the original.
We continued our search for the other members, and it turned into a nightmare.
Shut up, Chris. So this is a remake of the original Resident Evil, which released in 1996 or 1997, depending on what part of the world you're living in, on the original PlayStation. And it was a game that pretty much 100% invented the survival horror genre. Nobody was using the term survival horror before Resident Evil released. And it's a full-on remake. Both visually which was one of the biggest noticeable features of the remake. The remake also expanded the story of the original. It introduced new puzzles, new locations, really just expanding the mansion.
Hey, Brad! Where the hell's he going?
And top quality CGI cutscenes as well. Which really improves the storytelling. The remake is considered to be one of the greatest remakes of all time, one of the greatest Resident Evil games of all time, and even one of the greatest games in general of all time. So it's an absolute gem of a game, and still is. Received quite a few remasters over the years.
3 STARS members left now. Captain Wesker, Jill, and myself. We don't know where Barry is.
This remake is available across a lot of platforms.
Is everyone all right?
Barry. Where's Barry?
He's...
No. What was that?
I'll go and check it out.
All right. Jill and I will stay and secure this area.
Chris? Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a remake, and as I mentioned, it includes extremely enhanced visuals. I mean, if you compare Resident Evil 1 on PS1 to this remake on GameCube, you would want to be blind not to see the massive step up in visual quality. And as I mentioned, it also introduces it expands story. It contains new locations across the mansion and outside the mansion. It even includes new enemies, like the infamous Lisa Trevor. New puzzles, all while maintaining what makes Resident Evil Resident Evil. So as you can see, fixed camera angles, tank controls, and as we progress through the live stream, true survival horror, true resource management, and zero checkpoints. Because all of those things is what made Resident Evil Resident Evil. You see, Resident Evil, as I mentioned, it released in 1996 or 1997, again, depending on what part of the world you are living in. So as the series went on, I mean, Resident Evil would be so successful that it would get a sequel, Resident Evil 2. Then we got Resident Evil 3. And, you know, at that stage, hardware had advanced to the next generation. So there was new consoles on the market. So we got Xbox, PlayStation 2, and Nintendo GameCube. Now, because of a business agreement between Nintendo and Capcom, this remake ended up on the Nintendo GameCube. That's something I want to talk about in a few minutes. But what I really want to talk about is what Capcom did with this remake. Because a lot of people, not me, okay, but a lot of people felt that the series was getting a bit, like, stale, even though there was only 3 games in the series. Maybe that, I don't know, that was a thing back on the PlayStation 1, really. Some people just felt like after 3 games of the series that things were getting boring. But anyway, there was people out there that felt, okay, we need something different. But the thing about it is, right, this remake modernized Resident Evil. I mean, there's not exactly like 15, 20 years between the original release and the remake, okay? But, I mean, there was some time between the two, between the original and the remake, okay? So this gave Resident Evil a whole new lick of paint, right? But it managed to retain everything that made Resident Evil what it was. As I mentioned, the fixed camera angles, the tank controls, the 100% survival horror, the atmospheric music and songs, the ink ribbons to save your progress, no checkpoints, real resource management. Like, this is my inventory, and it only has starts off at 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 slots in the inventory. Yeah, so everything that made Resident Evil is in this remake. But obviously, they visually enhanced it. They added to the story. And when I say added to the story, like, it's not some crazy shit that doesn't really kind of fit into the series. They just expanded. They expanded upon the story, and they expanded the mansion with new locations and new puzzles, and even new enemies as well. And that's what makes it such a great remake, and that's why people to this day still love it. I'm just taking my time exiting here because there's going to be like a little kind of cutscene. Wesker, Jill. But this should have been the blueprint for future Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 4 should have been like this. And if you look at the early betas, and there was quite a few betas of Resident Evil 4.
Where did they go?
The development of Resident Evil 4 went through a lot of changes, right? By the time it actually released into what it was, an action horror game with an emphasis on action. 5 minutes into the game, Leon is jumping out a window. Long gone was the like slow-paced, like atmospheric, spooky, like survival horror. Instead, you were like surrounded by like fast-moving, like human-like enemies, like where it felt like Call of Duty at times, and you were jumping out a window. That's action, people. That's not survival horror. That's action. So, like, if you actually look at the early concepts of Resident Evil 4, one of the early story concepts was that Leon S. Kennedy was infiltrating Spencer's castle before we even saw it in 5, Lost in Nightmare DLC. And it had fixed camera angles, and it had tank controls. I think. Not quite sure about tank controls now, but it definitely had the fixed camera angles anyway, and it felt like a traditional Resident Evil game. So Resident Evil 4 should have been like this, where instead of being in a mansion, you're in a castle, you're playing as Leon S. Kennedy, and obviously new story elements, but they should have kept the camera angles, they should have kept the tank controls, they should have kept the true sense of survival horror. But instead they didn't. And what we got was an action horror game, and then that just led to 5 and 6, and as far as like Village and 7 and Village is concerned, like a lot of OG fans, regardless of sales of 4 or 5 and 6, didn't like that direction. So then Capcom decided to bring back horror, but we got back horror, but we didn't get back Resident Evil. That's a quote I haven't heard anyone saying before. I'm quite proud of that quote now, to be honest. We got back horror, but we didn't get back Resident Evil. I mean, when Resident Evil hit the market, okay, back in the early 90s on PlayStation, it gave players a completely different experience of which they'd never experienced before. You look at Village and all you can think of is Outlast. I mean, an independent company, Red Barrels, what do I call it again? Red Barrel Studios. Like, they gave us something we hadn't seen before. With Outlast. All I see with 7 Village is just Capcom's attempt to capitalize on what Red Barrels did with Outlast. You know, there's nothing really innovative about Village and 7. You know, so they brought back horror, but they didn't bring back Resident Evil. Look, this is what they should have been doing. They should have built upon this remake. You know, they brought back Resident Evil. They went back to the original Resident Evil to remake it, reintroduce Resident Evil. You know, introduce it to a new audience, because maybe there was, you know, players who were only getting into gaming around the mid 2000s, when this remake released. Well, actually, it was early 2000s. Actually, when this remake released, maybe they didn't play the original Resident Evil on PS1. Maybe they didn't have that console. Maybe their first console was the GameCube, and this was the first time getting into it. This would have appealed to them because I mean, maybe they didn't fancy that pixel graphics of the PS1, and this would have definitely appealed to them because the visuals are absolutely outstanding. The detail in the mansion, the detail in the character models, I mean, at the time was absolutely mind-blowing. Look at the way the candles, I mean, sway from left to right. I mean, back then, I mean, this is standard stuff, like, nowadays, like, but back then this was really, it was mind-blowing stuff, like, and I'm laughing because I'm just conscious of, like, of a person of, Gen Z who would just go over their head, like, but for someone who grew up with, 8-bit graphics and then go on to the pixel graphics of PS1, like, when we saw a game like Resident Evil Remake, our minds were absolutely blown. Like, us millenniums, we were mind blowing, by this kind of stuff. So I'm actually a bit tired, to be honest with you. Look at those special effects. There's lightning. Look at that lightning. But yeah, they sort of just used this game as a blueprint and kept tank controls, kept fixed camera angles, kept that spooky atmospheric soundtrack. Just, yeah, I mean, what can I say? I mean, this should have been the blueprint. There's a lot of games that still go by a blueprint out there on the market. Now, there's a few things I want to discuss, okay? A lot of people look at sales with everything. No matter what the topic is, they will always look at sales. Johnny, look at the sales. Look at the sales of the early Resident Evil games compared to the modern Resident Evil games. Oh, Johnny, you'll see that the modern Resident Evil games sold a lot more. Johnny, look at the sales of Resident Evil 1 and the GameCube. Look at the sales, look at the sales, look at the sales. But see, what they don't look at is the context behind those sales. What people have to realize is that gaming in the 90s was a completely different type of pastime to what it is now and to what it was, I would say, from mid-2000s onwards. Like, not everyone was playing video games, right, back in the 90s. Okay, but by the time the mid-2000s came along, it had just blown up to a point where pretty much everyone was playing video games. So that means more people have access to consoles, and more people have access, therefore, to video games. It's kind of like a party. Imagine you're having a party, okay, a free gaff, a free house, a house party, whatever it is, and you're basically inviting everyone to come to it, right? But the party starts off with you and your friends, and you're sitting down and you're listening to one particular type of song from Elvis. Don't ask me why. Elvis, right? You're all listening to Elvis, you're all having a great time. And then, as the party goes on, more people start arriving. Oh, hi, what's going on here? This looks interesting. This party looks interesting. I'm going to come in here. Oh, hi, you don't mind if we listen to Bob Dylan? I'm like, okay. And slowly but surely, the tone of the party starts to change. What I'm trying to say is, just because more people, okay, joined gaming and more people bought consoles and bought games like Resident Evil, that doesn't mean that people stop liking survival horror. Just like those people listening to Elvis in that party that I spoke of, they're not going to stop listening to Elvis. They're not going to stop liking Elvis. It's that more people have arrived and they start listening to other music. What I'm saying is that sales aren't necessarily everything. They're not. I can't keep getting obsessed with sales when you look at the context behind them a lot of the times. What you have to realize about the remake of Resident Evil is, because of that pretty strange business decision between Capcom and Nintendo, like the remake of Resident Evil, which was only on PS1. It was on Sega Saturn as well, but you know, who gives a fuck? But but it was primarily a PS1 game, and 2 and 3 were also known as like primarily. Like, I mean, a lot of people would argue that the home of Resident Evil is PlayStation. So to put the remake on GameCube when GameCube wasn't really selling well was a pretty strange decision. Now I bought a GameCube for Resident Evil, okay, and I honestly feel you can come at me with a pitchfork here now all you want. You can do what you want, you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, okay, if you claim to be a Resident Evil fan, you're going to buy a GameCube to play the remake. I did that. I remember being a little kid, seeing the trailer for Resident Evil the remake of Resident Evil for the first time, and all I can remember saying is running into the kitchen saying to my mother, I want the GameCube for Christmas. No questions asked. And I got a GameCube for Christmas, and it was the only reason I wanted it was to get Resident Evil remake. I would imagine that any like true Resident Evil fan would have done the same thing. But regardless, not a lot of people had a GameCube, and it just didn't quite work out the way that Capcom would have wanted it to. So people can look at the sales of Resident Evil 1 and say, oh, look, Johnny didn't sell very well, but they don't really think before they speak, do they? They don't really understand why it hasn't sold very well. It's all about the why. As I mentioned as well, very early on in gaming back in the 90s, not a lot of people were playing consoles. So people, do you know what I mean? I don't have to repeat myself, do I? So that explains sales. I mean, I would say if this remake was on PS2, okay. Although we do know that, we do know that So now, how the fuck is that classic? I have classic controls on, and for some weird reason it's L1 to aim and R1 to shoot. That's not classic, but I stick to it anyway. I'm not playing this game on easy. Oh, I thought he was dead. He is now. But yeah, we all know that the GameCube was the most powerful console of that generation. But still though, I mean, if this was on the PS2, it still would have looked a lot better than the PS1 version. Do you know what I mean? Without a shadow of a doubt. It would have sold a lot more than the GameCube version because more people had the PS2. I mean, we all know how well the PS2 sold. So it was kind of weird how Capcom decided to bring the remake to PS2. So it would have sold very well, and I think if it did sell so well, I think that would have really, really changed, you know, what 4 would have ended up becoming. But unfortunately 4 ended up becoming an action game, and it sold well, and I really explained factors as to why games can sell very well. But just imagine if this was 4, if this had become Resident Evil 4, and you know 5 and 6. Look, this is Resident Evil. These fixed camera angles. I mean, if you don't like them, well, then you can't honestly, with a straight face, consider yourself a fan of the series. I mean, if a no checkpoint system annoys you, oh, I'm 3 hours into the game and I've died, oh, this is so annoying, well then tough fucking titty. It's, you know, consider playing Minecraft or something, I don't know. But let the big boys play Resident Evil. Because that's what Resident Evil is. You know, I no longer call it classic Resident Evil. I just call it Resident Evil because it's not classic Resident Evil. It just is Resident Evil. Like I'm not gonna sideline the series. I'm not gonna separate the series. It is Resident Evil. That's how I word. That's how I word things now from the one. Like when I refer to these games, they're not classic Resident Evil. It's Resident Evil. I don't think it's too late for Capcom to go back to its grassroots in terms of fixed camera angles, tank controls, and when I say true survival horror, I don't mean that bullshit where like the producer will pop on his screen and say, "Don't worry, guys, it's horror. We have horror." But they're very rare to use survival horror. It's horror. Don't worry, it's horror. But then they'll kind of slowly start saying, "Oh, but we do have to be conscious of modern players and what they expect from game." I don't give a shit what a fucking 10-year-old Zoomer expects, okay, from a fucking series that he jumped on like the fucking battle bus in Fortnite. I don't give a shit about those people. I don't see why Capcom should either. But anyway, that's what happens. You know, so then they start kind of saying, "Oh, we do have these elements where there's a checkpoint system, and you know, we have this system where you can fucking parry a fucking chainsaw with a knife." Fuck me, like. Fuck that shit, like. I'm getting really angry now, but fuck that shit, like. Either make a Resident Evil game or don't make a Resident Evil game. Just make your mind up, you know. I always check the doors even though another locked. It's the thing. It's a thing. Don't judge me. Bastard. It's something I do. I know they're locked every single time. I know they're locked, like, but I just do it anyway for the fun of it. I don't care. It's part of the tradition of playing Resident Evil for me. I don't care. Sue me. Got a problem with it? Fucking sue me. I don't give a fuck. But no, seriously, look, I'm kind of going off track now. But like, Capcom really should have looked at this remake and said, "Okay, this is the future of Resident Evil." I mean, look how they should have thought to themselves, "Look at how amazing this game is. Look how amazing it plays." You know, I mean, it mightn't have sold extremely well because it released on a console that nobody fucking had. I had, but I said nobody. I mean, like, it wasn't a commercial. Like, the GameCube wasn't a huge commercial success like the Switch is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, the PS2 was a successful console. The PS2 was the console to have. And for God's sake, like, it was PlayStation that Resident Evil was home to. Like, so to put the fucking thing on GameCube was a strange decision. It really was. I mean, Capcom have only themselves to blame for that. Like, really, like, do you know? Capcom can't blame like anyone other than themselves for like Resident Evil Remake like not selling as well as they would have wanted. I don't know if they ever spoke about the sales. I don't think Capcom ever said we weren't happy with the remake of Resident Evil 1. I don't think they ever said that. But if it's just people, like if you just look at the sales of, you know, Resident Evil Remake compared to like 5 and 6, there's obviously a massive difference between the two. But I mean, I can't emphasize enough, like, this is Resident Evil. What you're looking at right now is Resident Evil. Everything, from the fixed camera angles, to the tank control, to the spooky atmosphere, all of this is Resident Evil, like. But as I already spoke about in yesterday's like discussion, when I was talking about the truth of the series. And as I spoke about at the start of this live stream as well, because of new gamers being introduced to the series, and they would have been born around the mid-2000s, like their first Resident Evil experience would have been like 4 onwards, and that's what they see as a Resident Evil game. That's what they expect from a Resident Evil game. So you give them these tank controls, and you give them these fixed camera angles, and they're like, what are you giving me? Get this shit away from me. It's not very respectful for a so-called Resident Evil fan, is it though? But that's the way that they react. Get this old game away from me. I don't care about this old game. But they're quite happy to call themselves Resident Evil fans at the same time. It's quite contradictory and hypocritical. But it is what it is, isn't it? It's happening, like. Yeah, this is Resident Evil, and they remade this, and it's a damn shame that 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and Village didn't end up like this. There's plenty of games that follow a formula for years and still ends up being successful. I mean, look at Tekken. I know it's a fighting game, but it doesn't matter what the fucking genre is like. I mean, there's plenty of games that follow a formula, stick to that formula, and are still successful to this day. There's absolutely no reason why we can't have a game like this with modern graphics, modern fucking. You can even add in modern elements. I like. They just keep to the fucking. There's no reason why these camera angles can't work. There's none. None whatsoever. Absolutely not. None whatsoever. I mean, if you can have 2D games like Sonic and Mario going side by side, like full on, like 3D, like pretty much open world, action adventure games, there's just no reason why Resident Evil can't have the tank controls and the fixed camera angles going forward, and a true sense of survival horror as well. I'm not catching the player's hand with like a checkpoint system as well, which is another thing. It's ridiculous. And bring back the classic doors as well. And I swear to God, like if anyone wants to turn around and say, but Johnny, that's not very realistic. Just think to yourself, when was the last time that you saw a fucking eyeball coming out of somebody's fucking hand? And then ask yourself, what is so real about Resident Evil? What is so real about any video game? I always say this, I always use this as an example. I feel like I'm picking on fucking Naughty Dog here and the fucking Uncharted series. I'm not, but there's a point. Like, Uncharted is one of the most realistic looking games you can possibly imagine. Okay? But you get shot 5 times in the chest and you lean against a wall and all of a sudden you're fucking healed. What's so real about that? Nothing. Because guess what? It's not a realistic game. But like Uncharted is not fucking trying to say like this is reality. This isn't a video game, this is real. You're fucking Nathan Drake. This is really happening to you. No, they're saying here's a fun fictional video game for you to enjoy. That's what Naughty Dog do. That's what most video game companies do when they release a game. No video game is real. So there's no reason why you can't bring back the classic door system in Resident Evil and not have fucking idiots turning around and saying, but it doesn't look real, Johnny. It's fucking retarded. That's what it is. And hello, Strange Music. Hello, Otku. I'll try and tone down the anger now a little bit if I can. You're both very welcome to Green Hill Gaming, as always. Welcome to my like discussion / gameplay live stream, where I'm basically talking about why Resident Evil Remake should have been the blueprint of modern Resident Evil games. This game is what every other Resident Evil game after the remake should have been like, as far as fixed camera angles, tank controls, true survival horror, true resource management, and 0 checkpoints. Because that is what Resident Evil is. And when Capcom remade this game, we got a glimpse. Like, this was a glimpse. It's a shame it didn't go any further than this, but this was a glimpse. This is what modern Resident Evil could have been like. I mean, this was on GameCube hardware. You can imagine what a PS3, Xbox 360 Resident Evil game could have looked like if it was designed like this. Do you know? So that's what I'm basically discussing in this live stream. But I'm actually not doing too bad now. Thank you for asking. What about yourself? And Otku, what about you? How are you doing as well? Where is Supon? Well, he prefers to be called Sabertac, so we will refer to him as Sabertac. Sabertac, I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. But we better get his sorry ass into this live stream right now. No, I'm only joking. But feel free to join in the conversation as well. You know, I always like to hear what you have to say. Whether I agree with it or not, like, it doesn't really matter, like, you know. I mean, my live streams are about interactivity, so fuck, my battery's gonna die. Didn't realise how fucking dead it was. We'll sort that out in a second. But yeah, get as interactive as you can. But so it's not even. I'm being very kind of cocky lately with my kind of discussion videos when it comes to anything really. But I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like it's an opinion. I don't feel like this is what I think. Like the reality is, this should have been the blueprint for future Resident Evil games. Okay, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. There's no ifs or buts about it. There's no ifs or buts about it. This is Resident Evil. Like, you can't turn around and say, oh, but Johnny, like, it's 2023 now, you know, things have to change. No. If you're going to put the Resident Evil title onto a game, and it doesn't have fixed camera angles, and it doesn't have tank controls, and it doesn't have true survival horror and true resource management, and it has quick saves, then it's not a Resident Evil game. Because you go to the original Resident Evil, you look at that game, it has all those things I mentioned. That's Resident Evil. So then if you don't have all those things on a game that's called Resident Evil, then it's not Resident Evil. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. I think it's easier for bandwagon fans, and it's easy for people who've never interacted with the series before, to say these things like, oh, but Johnny, like, you know, games have to evolve over the years and they must change, and oh, look at the sales and blah, 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 shut the fuck up. Because the reality is, they wouldn't like it if it was their fucking beloved series that they grew up playing, that they fully understand. You know, imagine if I weighed in on fucking a series like Call of Duty or whatever else. You know, I think Call of Duty should have water guns. Yeah, I think it should be like Splatoon. That's what I think it should be. I think it's too mature. Call of Duty is very mature, and they should evolve Call of Duty into like a really fun kind of kids game with water guns. Yeah, that'd be really fun. I'd love that. Now I'd buy that now, and I think that'd be great. I would probably be dead if I started to a hardcore Call of Duty fan. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so it's only when they hit home, it's their beloved series, that they're going along changing their fucking tune. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, back to Resident Evil. Yeah, that should have been the blueprint. And do you know as well, because it's because of the way this game is designed, because of the fixed camera angles, they actually could put a lot more detail into the locations. Now you can imagine, like, so imagine on a PS5, Resident Evil game could have looked like if it was made like this. I mean, you would probably, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, when this game released on the GameCube, it was visually impressive. I mean, this is only a remaster, so all they do is basically like make it brighter here and there. That's pretty much. This is still built off the GameCube. What you're looking at is GameCube tech, not PlayStation or Xbox tech. You're looking at GameCube tech, just upscaled here and there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a remake. Like, what is a remake? Well, the remake was on GameCube. Do you know? So if the game looked that good on GameCube, you could only imagine, dream of what it would have looked like on, like, what it could have looked like on PlayStation 5, and even all the other consoles before that, like what it could look like on PS3, PS4 as well. So the possibilities are endless. And what are you looking at right here? This is survival horror. Being trapped in a corridor like this. Just the way the fixed camera angle kind of played into it, like. It just blew his leg off. So what do you think? I'm throwing it out there now to you. What do you think? Would you like to prefer like the action horror direction that the series has went in, or would you have preferred if Capcom had continued making Resident Evil games like this? It's actually annoying saying that, really. Like making Resident Evil games like this. It's kind of stupid, really, saying that, because like this is Resident Evil. And I hate saying that. Like, I hate saying, oh, you know, they should continue making Resident Evil games like this. This is a Resident Evil. Like, imagine a FIFA game where you are fucking playing FIFA in space. And it's like the year fucking 5000. Just imagine that. Fucking Mario Football or something like that. Wouldn't go down too well, would it? And again, I don't really care about what the sales say, because there's a lot behind sales that we don't fully understand. There's a lot behind sales. A lot of sales are from people who don't even like the series. The game just ends up being bought by some means. Like, we have to realize all sales mean is that video game was purchased. We don't know who it was purchased by, and we don't know what the intentions were of that purchase, and where that purchase went, and who that person plays the game. Like, at the end of the day, the only real way to get a true sense of how actual Resident Evil fans feel about Resident Evil games is by asking them. And that online, but go into their face and ask them. I grew up with a lot of fucking friends from school, outside of school, who played Resident Evil, and I'm telling you, man, they wouldn't even give 5 and 6 a fucking thought. Do you know? Because they don't even have to think about it. It's not Resident Evil, and they don't even have to fucking question it. And even 4, for that matter. So I always say to people, stop getting obsessed with sales. Sales are not everything. In this particular context, anyway. I mean, see, the thing, I know people, and I'm telling you, I know people, so I know exactly what they're fucking thinking right now in their heads, right? At the end of the day, right, I'm not saying that sales don't mean a game is successful. If I'm sitting here quoting 12 million sales in 3 days, I'm saying that because it proves that something is successful. And it proves that the concept is successful. Okay? I'm not denying that. Is Resident Evil 5 and 6 successful? Yes. Very, very successful. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't change the fact that Resident Evil is about fixed camera angles, like we're looking at right now, tank controls, and survival horror. All sales means is that somehow the game has ended up being sold. You never woke me up. I've been in there for 3 hours having a bath. Look at me. I'm like a... Oh, wait a second, I am a zombie. Never mind. Now, I also want to say that, just so people are clear on things, right? In spite of everything I just said here, I played 4. I bought it on pretty much every console it released on. I bought it first on GameCube, I bought it again on PS2, then I bought it on the Wii, and then I downloaded it on the modern consoles. And I actually have the remake. I'm waiting for the VR update to come to the remake. So I played 4. I enjoyed 4. I played 5. I enjoyed 5. I played 6 and I couldn't tolerate it. I played Village and I played 7. And I played all the spin-offs in between. And overall, I've enjoyed all of those games. But I just never once did I feel like I was playing an actual Resident Evil game. With fixed camera angles, tank controls, true sense of survival horror, resource management. I didn't feel like I was playing this right here. Because as far as I'm concerned, and as I said in yesterday's live stream, the only Resident Evil games are Resident Evil 1 up to, including this remake, up to Code Veronica and 0. Anything after that is not a Resident Evil game. They're just action horror games with the name Resident Evil slapped onto it in the hopes of getting sales. And it obviously worked for Capcom. And hello, Mr. Middleton, as always, you're very welcome to live stream. You are welcome to live stream. How are you today? You're welcome to the live stream, where it's a discussion / gameplay, where I'm just talking about that this game, the remake of Resident Evil, should have been the blueprint of modern Resident Evil games. New technology on consoles contribute to sales. So someone sees like a GameCube, oh, there's a new Nintendo console coming out, oh, there's a new, oh, look at how amazing, Resident Evil looks. Oh, yeah, new technology, new consoles contribute to sales, definitely. 100%, Chad, definitely. How are you keeping, Mr. Middleton? But yeah, there's lots of things that contribute to sales, like 100%. I personally feel like that one of the biggest contributions to like high sales, like from like Resident Evil games from mid-2000s onwards, the fact that more people owned consoles then. I mean, gaming nowadays, everyone is gaming. Everyone, pretty much anyone is playing video games. That wasn't the case back in the 90s. Video games was really something, it was a nerdy type thing. Like, you're not a nerd if you play Fortnite. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not a nerd if you play Minecraft. Well, I don't know about Minecraft, but like, I'm only joking. But the thing is, like, you're no longer called a nerd if gaming is huge now. Everyone's playing games. So more people have access to consoles. And because more people have access to consoles, then they're getting access to these video game series for the first time. Oh, I wonder what Resident Evil is like. I'm going to try out Resident Evil. And that's what happened in mid-2000. People went out and bought 4, and they bought 5, and they bought 6, and everyone looks at sales and thinks, oh well, 4, 5, and 6 sold very well. That means that means that people don't care about the real survival horror Resident Evil games. It's not the case. That's just not the case at all. I got the summer cold, and oh god, nothing worse than having a cold during the summertime. Ah, Jesus, Chad, I hope you feel better soon, man. About everything else going on, like that's the last thing you need now. But yeah, I don't think sales should be the end of everything. It just shouldn't be the case. Like, I mean, just look at how detailed this room is, even on a GameCube. Like, think about that. Like, on a freaking GameCube, and it still looks amazing. You can only imagine. No problem, Chad. You can only imagine what an actual Resident Evil game would look like on modern tech. And even the Switch, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like Switch, PS4, PS5, still have a really, really good Resident Evil game on it. Like, the elephant in the room is that there is always going to be a division among like fans of Resident Evil. There's always going to be that division. And like, the reality is they just don't want to admit it, and it's the fact that they just don't like these games. And the thing is, if you don't like these games, then don't claim to be a fan of the series. It's as simple as that. And that's what happens. People claiming to be fans of Resident Evil, but they don't want to play these classic games because they don't like these classic games. Well, I keep using the term classic, but it's not classic. It's actual Resident Evil games. What if the next Resident Evil is open world? I wouldn't be surprised, Chad. And that's the thing. That wouldn't surprise me the slightest. Like, this is Resident Evil. And I love these fixed camera angles because just the way, like, the zombies approach you, you don't know where they are exactly, you're cornered in with them. And the strategy of waiting for the blood to pour out of them. And they're actual zombies. as well, which makes a huge difference as far as I'm concerned. And just this kind of music as well, which you're going to hear now in a second. This real atmospheric music, like, it's that's all part of it too. But it wouldn't surprise me the slightest if Capcom decided to make an open world Resident Evil game. And there'll be a lot of people who would love that, Chad. A lot of people would love that. But the thing is, like, they're from a different generation, and their view on what makes a Resident Evil game good is so different to the OG fans. I actually have played a bit of Dino Crisis. My friend had it. I never owned it myself. I enjoyed it. Resident Evil with dinosaurs. What more can you say? What more needs to be said? Huh? Like, there's so many different game genres out there, and they all don't look the same. Like, and certain game series go back to their roots a lot of the time. I mean, look at Mario. Mario started off as a 2D series. Okay? Started off as a 2D series. Oh god, I've been seeing. Started off as a 2D series. And then from Super Mario 64 onwards, it became like a 3D series. But then on the DS, they went back to their roots. They went back to 2D for the first time. So there's no, I don't know how else to put it, like, but there's no reason why Capcom can't give us a classic Resident Evil game. Oh, I say classic again. Actual Johnny. Get it right. God damn it. I have to go back down here again, actually. Yeah. I'm not really interested so much in progressing through this game. Just more interested in the actual discussion part of the live stream, really. I mean, this is something I really want to touch upon, actually. And I'm disappointed that it took me this long to actually talk about this. If you want to question the demand for actual Resident Evil games, like Resident Evil games that have everything that makes it a Resident Evil, the camera angles, the tank controls, the true survival horror, all you need to do is look at the amount of fan-made games that are being made and played by OG fans of the series that are actually like designed to look like the PS1 Resident Evil games. So all over the place, people like modding the original Resident Evil games, like building upon those games, or just making completely separate games altogether to look like the classic Resident Evil games. Because the term community gets thrown around a lot, and everything with the LGBTQI plus community, where they feel like that this thing you can never see, but it's a community, and we speak on behalf of you. So like, if you're gay, or if you're boy, if you're fucking lesbian, whatever else, this community somehow speaks for you, tells you what you should be thinking. And the same goes for every other community. It doesn't matter what the community is. It doesn't matter if it's in video games. It doesn't matter if it's in fucking society, whatever else. Like, I say fuck the community at the end of the day. That's what I say. Like, not every Resident Evil fan is online, first of all. And secondly, like, they don't have to be part of any fucking community to have an opinion. Again, all you have to do is look at the amount of fan-made projects, gaming projects, where people are making these games that are in the style of classic Resident Evil, actual Resident Evil games. It's so easy to say classic. I don't want to say classic though, because classic somehow kind of, I don't know, I just feel like it kind of separates the series. Like, there is no classic Resident Evil. It is Resident Evil. I keep saying that, and then go back to classic and again. So just look at the demand that's right there. I mean, people would 100% buy a Resident Evil 9 game if it had fixed camera angles and tank controls. Would you lose a couple of zoomers here and there? Yeah, but so be it. Fuck them. At the end of the day, like, you're still going to sell. Just, here's an idea, Capcom. Have a sales forecast. Have sales fucking projections. Do you know what I mean? Like how about just not expect your game to sell fucking 5 million copies? Like, some developers have these high expectations for game sales as of late. How about just aim for 1 million? We at Capcom aim to sell 1 million copies of Resident Evil 9 by going back to its roots. Going back to the survival horror roots. I literally went in there and didn't do anything. Come back to its roots. I think they'd be pleasantly surprised by how well they'd actually sell, to be honest with you. But look, I'm not Capcom. I don't make Resident Evil. Fuck all I can do. And I'd buy Resident Evil 9 no matter what it is anyway. Chad, even if it was open world, I'd still fucking buy it. Like, again, there's always a risk of people misinterpreting what I'm actually trying to fucking say. And it's the most annoying thing ever. It's the most annoying thing ever when you're trying to communicate and people don't understand. It's like going into a foreign country and just trying to, like, order food or trying to do something very important and they just don't understand the word you're fucking saying. Like, it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. It really fucking is. Like I'm gonna play the games no matter what they are. I'm just saying, as far as I'm concerned, and it doesn't actually, no, as far as I'm concerned, it's fact. Like, the only Resident Evil games are Resident Evil 1, including remake, up to Code Veronica and 0, right? And I feel like those two remakes should have been the blueprint for modern Resident Evil. Like, I don't make Resident Evil games, unfortunately. So I'm not going to be able to do fuck all the changes. But I will definitely, like, continue playing the games. This is how I feel about the series. You see, like, I'm not some kind of fucking fanboy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a critical fan. Like, I'm a critical fan. That's the best way to put it. I'm a critical fan. I will remain fairly critical about things in the series. Oh, fucking tired. This hour today, I'm tired. Okay. Let's go back up here. Yeah, again, feel free to let me know what you think. I've said enough now, to be honest. Like, I think we're so caught up with the remake of 2 and 4 that we kind of forget that this has already been here for so long. Like, this should have been the blueprint. Like, not 2 and 4. Like, you'll hear people saying, oh, maybe 4 could be, you know, the direction that Capcom should take the series in. Or maybe it's 2 remake. No. 2 remake is a good Resident Evil game. It's a Resident Evil game. It still doesn't have fixed camera angles. Okay? Still doesn't have the time controls. And I'm pretty sure it has checkpoints as well. But it's not quite this level. You know? It's not quite this level of 1 second. I'm confused now. not highest level of Resident Evil, is it? This should be the blueprint. I can actually hear a crow outside. Really adds to the atmosphere of this game because obviously crows are a big part of Resident Evil. No, I can't even pick up anything. I'm probably more or less gonna wrap up the live stream anyway. This wasn't really so much a gameplay like walkthrough. I mean, it is gameplay, but it's not really a walkthrough. Like you've completed this game numerous times. So I kind of want to close the live stream now because well, number one, my battery is going dead. So I'll just get my charger and it'll just kind of talk for the next like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. You know, sometimes, even though I can talk the ass off a donkey, right? And people who know me know that. But you know, sometimes when I'm making a point, sometimes I don't really need to say any. Sometimes I don't need to say a lot. That's just me. Do you know what like? Yeah. Like sometimes when I have something to say, I don't say a lot. I just say what I need to say, and that's it. And I think this discussion live stream is an example of that. And when that happens, then like you're gonna say it like 5 minutes into the live stream, and you're like you said your piece, then like, and then you're just basically recycling what you've already said. That's what's happening right now to me. No, to be honest, it is. So I get my phone charger. Like I've said my piece, like you know. I left my case. As they say. Like I know a lot of like you know professional YouTubers. You know they plan their videos, they plan their live streams, they know what they're going to say, they talk in a certain way. Like I'll try to impersonate that YouTuber. Hi guys, today in the video I'm discussing Resident Evil 1 Remake. You know, you guys, you know this game originally released back on GameCube in 2000. So look, I'm not that kind of, I'll fucking talk who I want to fucking talk, do you know what I mean? That's just me, like. But I don't really fucking plan my live streams, I don't really plan stuff. Well, it depends what it is really, like, you know, but generally speaking, no, I'm not really much of a kind of a planner, like, when it comes to this kind of stuff, like, I just talk. But yeah, as I said, when I fucking, sometimes when I have a point to make, I can make that point in like less than 5 minutes, and then that's it. Like, there's not anything to add to it. Like, I mean, what I'm basically saying in this discussion live stream is that this game right there, Resident Evil Remake, should have been the blueprint for modern Resident Evil games. We shouldn't have gotten action games. Okay? Fucking action man himself, Leon S. Kennedy. Oh, the little fucking emo fucking zoomer. Oh, Leon Kennedy. Mm. Like, just, do you know what you should do, lads? Do you know what you should do, lads? This is an idea now, okay? This is just a suggestion, right? Let the big boys play actual Resident Evil games. But actual survival horror. Which you wouldn't last 5 minutes in. Let's face it. Okay? Wouldn't last 5 minutes with no checkpoints, with a true Resident Evil save system. Wouldn't last 5 minutes, you know. And reduce the pay to win bullshit, like where you can buy like these like cat ears and 4 remake that allows you to have like fucking unlimited ammo and shit like that, you know. Because we all know you wouldn't last 5 minutes at actual Resident Evil, right? So let the big boys have their fixed camera angles, because you all wow, we don't like fixed camera angles. Wow, we don't like tank controls. Wow. Let the big boys play Resident Evil. And you know what he fucking Leon S. Kennedy sims and Lady Demetresque sims? You know what he can do? He can go on to Rule 34 and jerk off for some animated porn. Okay? That's what you do. Let people like me play fucking Resident Evil. Okay? Maybe Capcom should fucking buy into Rule 34. Yeah? And just like offer like a service on there. You know, so they can make their money off those fucking cunts. You know? And then people like us play Resident Evil. Is that an idea? I'm back. I got some Gatorade juice. Ah, nice. Back just in time for a Rule 34 discussion. So I was like, what the fuck is going on in this live stream? No, I'm just like, I don't even know what to say anymore, to be honest. I said my piece. This game should be the blueprint of Resident Evil. That's what I'm saying. Like, what more can be added to that? Like, what more can be added to that? Like, I don't think I need to make a defense. Because there's just none. I don't think it's an opinion. I don't think it's a view. I just think it's a fact. This should be the blueprint of modern Resident Evil. Because it is Resident Evil. Like, when Capcom went back and remade Resident Evil, right? Like, they didn't drastically change the game for modern gamers. They added to it. Which is what you want from a remake at times. They added to it, but in a very positive and effective and productive way. Do you know what I mean? They added in puzzles. I mean, puzzles is a big part of Resident Evil, okay? They added in puzzles. They redid puzzles. They added in new locations. So they expanded the mansion. I loved the fucking mansion. It's one of the best parts of the game. It's what makes Resident Evil. You can't think of Resident Evil 1 without thinking of the mansion. So by adding in like new locations, it just gives people more to explore in that mansion. It's almost like DLC in a way, I don't know. And adding to the story as well. Like just really like expanding everything that made Resident Evil. That's why he's considered to be one of the greatest remakes of all time, to be honest with you. So like they didn't drastically change it, you know? You weren't parrying Crimson Heads. You know, with a fucking nail clippers. Do you know? What am I saying? I don't know. But you were getting Resident Evil. Look, for fuck's sake, Resident Evil is what it is. And if you don't like it, then jack off to Leon S. Kennedy on Rule 34 and let the big boys play Resident Evil. It's as simple as that. For fuck's sake, like, it's as simple as that. Like, I don't think Capcom should have to like give into like the moaners. I'm not the moaner. That's the thing. This is probably pissing people off now because, oh my god, Johnny, you're the one moaning for the last fucking hour and a half, whatever else. I'm not the moaner. The moaners are the fucking Generation Z fuckers who just can't play a Resident Evil. You can't play these fixed camera angles. You can't play the fucking... I don't know why I'm putting on a fucking Ukrainian accent. But, like, they're just moaning because they can't play the fucking game. Like, just because they can't play the game doesn't mean Capcom should have to fucking go away and change the entire series. That's what I'm saying. Well, that's one of the things I'm saying anyway. I'm actually starting to have fun now, actually. Because I said my piece now, so I'm just having a bit of fun now for the rest of the 10 minutes or whatever of the live stream. But, yeah, like... Resident Evil is survival horror. Okay? It's not action horror. It's nothing other than survival horror. Okay? It has fixed camera angles. Okay? It is what it is. There's a lot of games have different types of camera angles. Okay? Depending on what the game is that you're playing. And it has tank controls. Because it adds to the... Like, they had nothing to do with technical specifications. Like, people like to think that. Oh, but back then you couldn't really move your character free on your own, so that's why they had tank controls. It was to do with the technical specifications of the console. Fuck. I choked it on that. But that's what they sound like. To be honest with you. But the funny thing is, that's bullshit. Because Super Mario 64 came out around the same time as fucking Resident Evil 1. Look, fucking Mario was fucking doing fucking... He was fucking doing fucking triple jumps and fucking backflips and wall jumps and the whole lot. Fuck's sake. You know, it wasn't anything to do with technical specifications. It was a deliberate design choice by Capcom. Because they didn't want you to be freely running away from the fucking zombies. They wanted you to feel like that you were... They wanted you to feel like you were trapped. So it was a deliberate design. It was put there for a reason. Put there for a reason. Okay? Some people like look at old games and they say, "Oh God, look at this. It's so shit." And then they go back and play Fortnite. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Couldn't make it up, like. Oh my God. Couldn't make it up. I really couldn't. I don't know, those seriously, like, I mean, I would just love to be able to sit down. Look, just all fucking joking aside, you know, right? All playing around aside, you know, right? I mean, this is what I mean. I fucking love Resident Evil. Anyone who knows me knows that I absolutely fucking adore this series. I mean, you should have known me when I was a kid. Like, when I was like fucking 10 years old onwards. You should have known me. You should have seen me. I mean, I fucking love this game. I couldn't put the controller down. There was one day, think of this now, in one day, I actually completed every scenario in Resident Evil 2. In one day. Because it was a weekend, Saturday, no school, sat in front of a PS1, and fucking played the shit out of Resident Evil 2. I'm actually getting emotional thinking about it. Those were the fucking days. I love Resident Evil. My first PS2 game was Code Veronica. I couldn't wait to get that game booted up on a PS2. I couldn't fucking wait. Like, it was the first Resident Evil game to have, like, cinematics, like, cutscenes. I mean, cutscenes, if you say it to a fucking Gen Z now, like, oh, it's so great this game has cutscenes, they'll be like, what? What are you talking about, cutscenes? Of course it has cutscenes, you fucking caveman. Do you know, you feel like fucking crying then, like, you know what I mean? Because, like, the thing is, like, to them, like, everything is handed to them in a fucking palette. Here's your fucking 4K cutscenes, you know what I mean? But, like, back in my day, when PS2 fucking launched, right, cutscenes were new. Well, they were relatively new anyway, like, I mean, like, really, like, fucking, like, proper, like, CGI cutscenes anyway, at least. I fucking love this series, okay? I really do, and I love the actual Resident Evil series, with the fixed camera angles. It's just everything that makes Resident Evil, like, it's like, Jesus Christ, like, if you love something, you love it for a reason. You love it for a reason. You love it, what it is. If you love a particular type of fucking food, right? You like the food because of its flavour, its texture, maybe even the way it's laid out, how it smells. You start taking those things away and replacing it with something different and saying, well, it's still the meal you love. No, it's not. Because you've taken this out and you've replaced it with that. Now do you understand what I'm saying? I love this game. I am in love with Resident Evil. And many other people are as well. You know, I'm not here for a casual fling. Okay? I don't hook up with Resident Evil. Okay? Once a fucking week. Okay? I'm in a fucking committed relationship with Resident Evil. So when it fucks me around and changes who they are, I want the real Resident Evil back. God damn it. Oh god, no, I'm actually really having fun here now. But no, seriously, I just want Resident Evil back, what it actually was. And for the people who jumped on the bandwagon mid-2000, again, they're looking for a quick hookup. Oh, this is a fun game, but I'm going to play this game, you know what I mean? And they fucking think they know everything about the series. They don't. They fucking don't, okay? It's the OG heads like myself that truly get it. Alright? We truly get it. I'm not here to insult anyone, okay? I'm not here to upset anyone or to offend anyone. I'm just here to speak the fucking truth. And sometimes the truth stings. It is what it is. Right? It is what it is. But no, I just want this Resident Evil back, like. And it would be so fucking cool, like, if they did do that with Resident Evil 9. And not some kind of like, not some kind of thing like where, okay, Johnny, here's your Resident Evil now, go for the corner there, no, be quiet, no, actually God loved you, do you know what I mean? It's a bit crazy. They're playing Resident Evil. I'll give you more Resident Evil, don't worry about that. Do you know what I mean? Like some kind of fucking old man nut job, you know, who's kept happy in the corner. Like, no, I don't want it like that. I don't want like a spin-off, like series. Like, you know, we keep the old heads happy, whereas the mainline series will continue being fucking, God knows what it ends up becoming, you know? I don't want that shit, like. It's very relaxing all the same with the fire, isn't it? The crackling fire. But that's nothing, well, the atmosphere. The atmosphere. God, you know, it'd be great. Well, it's supposed to be always different. I still think it'd be great if they had some kind of a VR experience of the original Mansion incident. And they could call it that too, they can call it the Mansion incident in VR. But that would be kind of, I would consider that as like a spin-off type thing. Oh, but like going forward, like just, I think they can fucking, like, Jesus, this game showed the world that you can have a modern Resident Evil game. Because it was modern at the time. Like, it originally came out on PS1, okay? And then, like, with the next generation of consoles, and what you have to realise too is back then, a generational gap, oh fuck me, it meant something. It meant something. I have to admit, nowadays, because of how far we've gotten, okay, with specs, it's not as big. That gap is not as big. And look, like, that's not even up for discussion. Like, I've seen comments. Like, I've seen people saying, like, Spider-Man on PS4 doesn't really look all that, like, Spider-Man on PS4, Spider-Man 2 doesn't really look like that much of a generational gap. You know, I've seen people saying that. I've heard people saying it with God of War. I've heard people saying it with many other third-party games as well. I mean, look, to me, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Because it's not something I really care about. But like, I have heard people saying that. But the thing is, like, when you look at like PS1 to PS2 or PS1 to GameCube, like that generational gap, it's fucking massive. Like, to go from PS1 Resident Evil to this, it was huge. And it fucking still is huge. So Capcom proved that they can make a modern Resident Evil. That they can maintain everything that made the series what it is, but obviously have a completely like new lick of paint at the same time. You know, have the better graphics. You know, maybe even have better physics. You know, much better storytelling because of, like, you know, character models and stuff like that. And imagine, like, what just again is imagine, like John fucking Lennon, imagine, huh? I think a reboot is what's needed. That is what's needed. You know, that is what's needed. I've had a few back and forth conversations with people about this now, like remake or reboot. I think it needs a reboot. In so many ways, it needs a reboot. I think it needs to do what Ed Boon did with Mortal Kombat 1. And just go all out with a reboot. That's what it needs. Not so much changing gameplay. Like, that's the whole point of this fucking discussion, is don't be changing stuff, right? I think a reboot would make sense. Because then it wouldn't be a direct continuation of Village. And because of the way the Village was designed, and because of the game development and everything else, like, it wouldn't like, if you clearly marketed like the next Resident Evil as a reboot, I just think it would make sense and it would be great. So reboot it, but have the fixed camera angles, have the tank controls, have a true survival horror. But like, is it 1996? No, it's not. It's 2023. Games have come a long fucking way since the 90s. So am I saying make a PS1 game in 2023? No. So I definitely think there's room for like improvement. I think there's room for polish, and there's room for innovation when it comes to survival horror. But just so long as it's actual survival horror. Like, innovation is not, we're going to give you survival horror, but we're going to give you a fucking rocket launcher to start the game with unlimited ammo. No, that's not survival horror. That's just pure fucking action. Okay, actual survival horror. And something that I've actually discussed this actually a few times actually in a few live streams. I want something that takes psychological horror to the next level. Now it is survival horror, but like survival slash psychological horror. And I don't mean Silent Hill when I say that. Just a different type of psychological horror. I mean, and you know, a lot of gamers want realism in their games, don't they? No matter how much you remind them that a video game is fiction, they still want their realism. Okay then. So you want realism. Okay. So you're Chris Redfield. You are like used to be a marine pilot. You're now working in this like special forces like squad at the police force, handle some serious situations like terrorism and stuff like that. You're quite ready for a lot of tough situations. But the next minute you're hearing like cases of like bizarre murders, families being eaten. So you're probably thinking, okay, some fucked up like cannibal cult type shit here. Okay, we gotta go in there and take care of that shit. You go in to Raccoon Forest where these murders have apparently taken place. And within minutes, your colleagues, your friends, the people you work with, day in and day out, ripped apart, shredded, fucking head being decapitated, limbs being torn off, screams of agony, blood squirting in your face, right? Fucking, like, this is what would happen. This is what Chris Redfield saw as a person. If you want to bring realism into games, that's what he saw, right? That's what he experienced. By fucking what he could only describe as a monster. Like, we call them zombie dogs, but like, to him it's a fucking monster. And the zombies in the mansion fucking, you know, like, that has gotta have some serious psychological effects. No matter how fucking trained you are for like tough situations like fucking terrorism or whatever else. So I would like that to be incorporated into like the mechanics of the game and add a new layer of survival horror. Like, what if your character just completely lost its fucking mind because of everything that's going on and just literally just had a complete nervous breakdown? Like, that should be the game over screen. That should be a second game over screen. Obviously, if you get eaten by a zombie, you're dead. Game over. But there should be another level of damage, another level of like damage you take, and ultimately like leading to like the game over. And that should be like a psychological meter. I know there's games like what's it called, Eternal Darkness, whatever else it was. I know, but we just forget about that for now. But this is my way of doing it. But like basically, if your character completely loses control mentally, then it's game over. It's game over. No problem, Chad. Listen, thanks. I'll rant away here now for a bit. Thanks for watching the live stream, Chad, as always. Much appreciated. Get better soon as well. Get better soon. That more time. A cold during the summertime. Oh, it's annoying. So get better soon, Chad. I'll catch you in the next live stream. So yeah, it's like logical meter, where it'll like affect everything, affect your movement. Maybe you don't see clearly. You're not thinking clearly. You can't aim your gun properly. Stuff like that. And if that gets out of control more and more and more, then it's game over. That's just one of the things they can add into survival horror. But obviously, like, tech has improved over the years, so like you can do stuff now. PlayStation 5 has 3D audio. You can do stuff with the 3D audio to make the music even more atmospheric, make the jump scares even more scarier. But just, yeah, so that's just an example of how they can make like survival horror like feel modern, but still be survival horror, but still have like resource management in there as well. And again, fixed camera angles, tank controls, all of that, right? But as far as a reboot is concerned, no, I'm just kind of throwing it out there now. This is a bit of fun now, right? But just imagine like a bit like Mortal Kombat 1, where you have these characters you know and love, but have a completely different story this time around. Imagine the concept of Jill and Claire being like brother and sister. Just throwing it out there. Let's say Jill is not part of STARS, but she somehow like follows Chris into the mansion because she believes something is up and she just wants to protect him or something. I don't know. Maybe Jill is older than Chris. Maybe Chris is the younger brother and Jill is the older sister. I think the reason people do that with reboots, when something is rebooted, there's a reason. There's a reason something gets rebooted, because they want to make it fresh. They want you to have a fresh experience. And we know Chris, we know Jill. I mean, Chris is fucking pushing on to like, what's he, you know, he's in his mid-50s. He's in his mid-50s. I mean, Jill is no fucking further behind. You know, they've killed off Wesker, the Umbrella Corporation is gone. Like, you're kind of really, like, I mean, everything we knew about Resident Evil is dying. And I mean, not just in terms of its concept that I've been speaking about since yesterday, but it's just even like the lore. The lore, where is the lore? You tell me where the fuck the lore is in Resident Evil now. Where's the lore? I'm Chris Redfield. Back in my day in the mansion incident, you don't know what I experienced. No. We had to get our ink ribbons to save our progress. Like in the fucking nursing home. Like, I mean, like, where was the lore going? Honestly. I mean, like, we're beyond bioterrorism. Bioterrorism was like 5 and 6. Like 6 literally had the whole fucking world under fucking threat by bioterrorism. Like, what can they do next? You have to reboot this series, Capcom. That's what you have to do next. But you have to give us a Resident Evil experience. Okay? But it has to be rebooted. You know, you can still have the characters. You can still have the Umbrella Corporation. One of the things as well I've been speaking about as far as Umbrella Corporation is concerned is a much darker, not that you can get any more darker really than the Umbrella Corporation, but I suppose darker in the sense of, because I mean, a mad scientist is a mad scientist. All scientists think of is their research. And real, like, fucking psychotic, like, mad scientists don't really care who they hurt and what they cause in their research. But I'm going beyond to kind of make the mad scientist thing, okay? And I'm talking more about darker in terms. They should make them this kind of like this shadow power, this shadow world power. Like, we look at world power as like the big militaries of the world, you know, the big governments of the world, you know, America, Russia, China, right? North Korea. We think of those kind of like countries when we think of like power. But like, what if it was like an underground shadow power that was pulling the strings? The Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, right? Elite, whatever you want to call them. Like, the people who essentially control the world is the Umbrella Corporation. And they have this sickening agenda to basically end the world on their terms. And they decide who survives, they decide who dies, and they decide how it happens. And that's basically the plot for, let's say at least 3 games, because we know now that in today's trend of gaming, you genuinely get, I think now, there's generally only about between 3 to 4 years between a Resident Evil game, generally speaking, a mainline anyway, generally speaking. So I think by committing to 3 games, a trilogy, where that side of the Umbrella Corporation that's what it's all about. So during the course of 3 games, you learn about this Umbrella Corporation and what their true intentions are, which is basically to bring about an apocalypse. I mean, I know I'm getting inspiration from Paul Anderson's Resident Evil, but fuck it. You know, like a shadow power that are controlling the world, and they're deliberately trying to bring about an apocalypse, and they're using the T-virus, and they're using various like outbreaks as a way of doing it. So it's not so much bioweaponry, it's not so much like anything to do with that, it's just that particular virus itself to bring about like a zombie apocalypse to basically just wipe out the world, basically. Would be like so that would be like the new kind of direction that the Umbrella Corporation would take place in. Like Raccoon City could be like a really like more of a controlled city than we hear about it in 3, Resident Evil 3, the original, where like we hear about like how the Umbrella Corporation, you know, employs so many people, and you know, people are afraid to speak out against them. But I think there should be a lot more than that, like Umbrella Police, you know, like Umbrella education, you know, umbrella, like, or basically like the political power, you know, again, like just basically this real kind of like, well, that wouldn't be a kind of shadow kind of organization, but you could go further. I mean, let's say it's a part of like that we're now living in a time where there is like a one world government, and that is the umbrella corporation. It would suit the term umbrella, wouldn't it? The umbrella of the world, protecting the world. Boom. Sign me up, Capcom. Do you know what I mean? That's what they could go with. Umbrella could mean something, could genuinely mean something. The term umbrella could be a lot more kind of understood this time around. So that's an example of something they could do. So I was talking about how they could change survival horror and how they could reintroduce the characters and reintroduce the umbrella corporation. I'm no game developer, I'm no game designer, but that's just a few ideas there of how they could go about rebooting the series. But hey, look, reboot, remake, continuation, whatever the hell Capcom decided to do with 9. And I know it's not. Like, I mean, it's not. Like 9 is already in development. People have seen this game. Like stuff has leaked of this game already. So it's not going to be like, it's not going to be fixed camera. It's not going to be tank controls. It's not going to be true survival horror. I'm still going to play it. The world will go on. I will go on. I'm just here to just talk and just say how I feel about the series. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not some kind of a fanboy where I'll just say, yes, Capcom, yes, Capcom, yes, 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 yes. You know, I love you, Capcom, love your game, yes, 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 without criticizing anything. I'm not going to be like that. But at the same time, I'm not going to be a hater and say, oh, fuck the series, fuck the series, fuck the series, I'm not playing it. I mean, I will continue playing it because it's just the way it is. It's just the way I am. You know, same with Sonic, same with any other series that I grew up playing. I'll continue playing it no matter what they do, no matter where they take the series. I'll be fucking there. I'll be there, you know. Is what it is. Like an abusive relationship. No matter how many times Capcom fucked me over, I'll just continue taking it. No, but I'm all joking aside. That is the truth of the matter. Like, you know, life will go on regardless of how I feel about Resident Evil, you know. But look, I'm not the only person that feels this way, and as I always say, but everything really, don't look at social media as the world, because that's not the world. The world is a very big place. There's a lot of people living on this planet. There's like fucking 6+ billion people living on this planet. Like, a few comments on a social media thread is not 6 billion people. Okay, just think about that for a second, right? Have we thought about it? Good. So, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, people will agree and disagree, but the thing is, like, if it's on social media, it doesn't represent like a true picture of how people actually feel. Believe me, there's a lot of people who feel the same way I do about Resident Evil. Okay, people who grew up playing it. God, I remember having like a friend in school, man. He was fucking probably more into Resident Evil than I was, and he is a talented fucking like artist, to be honest with you. Like really talented, and he like drew basically like a scene from Raccoon City, like. So you had that did Liquor, and I think he drew the Nemesis as well. It was fucking good. You know, it was proper good, like, you know. If I fucking drew something, basically like you're like fucking. If Mr. X was a fucking matchstick man, it's about the only fucking artistic ability I'd have when it comes to drawing Resident Evil, that's for sure. And hello Nicole, how are you doing? This is Resident Evil Remake, which is what Capcom sort of use as a blueprint for modern Resident Evil games. But unfortunately, we got like action horror games from 4 onwards. It's a real shame that that didn't continue with the fixed camera angles, tank controls, and true survival horror. It's an absolute shame. But how are you doing, Nicole? Great to have it live stream. It's probably gonna have to wrap up the live stream now, like properly, like in a few minutes. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I feel very strongly about this particular topic, this particular discussion, because I mean, I love Resident Evil so fucking much, like, you know, I don't think people really understand just how much I absolutely love this series. I cannot put it into words. Okay? I really can't. It's my beloved series. And I would just really love if I just got a true Resident Evil experience. And I just don't accept. I don't accept that it can't be done. I don't accept that. Because it has been done. This game right here is proof of that. It has been done. You know, it's management. I'm telling you, it's management. It's management. It's 100% management. You know, it's younger management, and they're just so fucking scared to you know, go in a specific direction because they know that they're going to lose the interest of like modern gamers and newcomers as well. Because that seems to be a big thing lately. Getting new people into the series. Let it up to themselves. If they want to get into the series, they'll get into the series. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't think EA Sports ever fucking care about bringing new people into FIFA. Do you know what I mean? I don't play soccer. I'm not going to magically play fucking FIFA. You know? Oh, look, Johnny. One of our players is called Redfield. This is a game for you. I don't like soccer. I don't play soccer. I have no interest in fucking football. Football, soccer, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But I don't play it. I'm not going to start playing FIFA anytime soon. So like, just let it be. If people want to play a Resident Evil, they'll play a Resident Evil. But just this thing about like appealing to new gamers, like just stop doing that. Because that's the reason why we have all this fucking action, horror, and deviation from the main fucking core of the game. That's why we have all that crap. And I love the fact that Resident Evil as a brand is so big. I do. I genuinely do. And all these years there, like 30, around almost 30 years. Like, I mean, to see a series going around for that long, like, you know, all the movies that have come out as well. It's great, like, it's great overall to see that. But, seeing that, like, to see half the fucking people that are playing it, like, and to hear the things they say half the time, it's just, oh my god. Hopefully, you know, in my time, we will get an actual Resident Evil game. Because I don't call them classic Resident Evil games anymore, I call them actual Resident Evil games. Oh my days. Oh my days. I don't think you'll find the person that's as passionate about gaming as much as I am. And that's the truth. And definitely when it comes to Resident Evil. And people, again, as they always do, they misunderstand me. I am misunderstood. I swear to God, if I was in a Marvel movie, I'd be the fucking biggest villain walking the face of the earth because I know misunderstood people. I'd basically be going around fucking strapping people to fucking chairs and like fucking sellotaping their eyes open to look, this is classic Resident Evil. You will not leave here until you get it into your head that this is classic Resident Evil. And killing people who play fucking 4, 5, and 6. That would be my, yeah. But no, seriously, like, people do misunderstand me, like, you know. Like, I'm not some kind of like moan or it's not about complaining. Like, I mean, come on now, like, you know, like it's a loose definition. Like, anything can be complaining, really, today. Like, you know, you could define anything as I'm not complaining. Fuck's sake, I played Village. I loved Village. Played it again in VR. What hell of an experience that was. I have 4 Remake. I'm going to play it when it comes up in VR. I'm not complaining as such. I'm just expressing my passion for Resident Evil. I adore this series. I think more than any other series. Honestly, more than any other series. And it's just been so long since I've gotten an actual Resident Evil experience. I mean, it's going to take more than a fucking typewriter, Capcom. It's going to take more than that, like. Oh, it's a typewriter. Ah, nostalgia. It's going to take more than that. I just haven't felt like I've played a Resident Evil game for a very long time. So I think a reboot is definitely needed. Bring back zombies. We need zombies. Zombies have to come back. I don't know what to start to be honest with you. How do you feel? How do you feel about it, Nicola? Are you a fan of Resident Evil? I just want my beloved Resident Evil back. That's all I want. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think remakes should be the way forward because, let's face it. Like, I mean, the last 3 remakes we got, like, no, 2 remakes we got. There's a 3 remake and 4 remake. Were no, it's like, no, it's the last 3 remakes we got was 2, 3, and 4. I think, like, okay, like they're not 4, 5, and 6. Well, fucking 4 remake is fucking 4. What I'm saying is, like, in particular, 2 and 3. Okay, Resident Evil 2 is a Resident Evil game in a lot of ways, but it still doesn't have the fixed camera angles. Like, would it have killed them? With everything going for them, they had everything. Would it have killed them if they had just done fixed camera angles and tank controls? And I also want to add, they've modded all those games. They've modded every one of those games to have tank controls. Because guess what? Contrary to popular fucking social media belief, OG fans like myself who don't particularly have a big presence online, we don't give a shit about over-the-shoulder controls or fucking camera angles, whatever it is. We don't give a shit about that. Like, we're modding these games to have tank controls and fixed camera angles because we prefer that. You know, but it is starting to happen. I mean, Capcom are starting to take note because there were people who just did not like the first person in 7 and Village. And guess what happened? An update came to Village where you could play it in third person. So, like, you can't deny, I mean, people can say it to me, oh, well, John, you can't deny the sales of 5 and 6 and 7 in Village. But you can also deny the amount of people who are coming out there, like, modding these games to make them feel like Resident Evil games and creating these, like, fan-made games as well to make them look like classic Resident Evil games. So the demand is there, like, you know? The demand is there for real Resident Evil. I've never played one, but they look really cool. I don't know where to start with them though. That's fine. Oh god, I got on this call. I am gonna have to go. But thank you so much for watching the live stream. It's much appreciated. And listen, before I let you go though, I think you should start with this game right here. I think you should start this. Because in terms of the lore, it's where it all starts. It's the best version of the remake. This is actually the remastered version as well of the remake. That's the version I think you should start off with. So listen, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next live stream. Goodbye.